Welcome to this bonus episode of Gravely Curious. I'm Gena Showalter.
And I'm Jill Monroe, and together we wrote the Jane Ladling Mystery series.
Today is September 30th, which is special because the audio version of Book 4 in the Jane Ladling Mystery series, 12 Graves of Christmas, comes out today.
Narrated by the very talented Kelli Tager.
She's just wonderful. And at the end of this episode, we'll include a snippet of her narration of the first book in the series, Romancing the Gravestone.
We've received a couple of questions about the podcast and wanted to do a quick Q&A. Question number 1, who are the voices?
For Jane, I did her voice. Expertly, thank you very much.
I was actually surprised when you volunteered to do Jane, Gena. I thought for sure you wouldn't want that big of a speaking part.
I was challenging myself.
Good for you.
Or maybe I preferred to just do one voice and dump all the others into your lap. You ended up having to do so many.
Oh, good point. I always say Gena is part of the word genius. And it was kind of tough doing all those voices, which makes you really appreciate a good voice actress like Kelli Tager, because that stuff's not easy.
And the most brilliant voice actress of our generation, Gena Showalter.
But I did have to convince a few members of the Monroe family to lend their voices as well to do the ads.
Speaking of ads, we have a question about those. It's a two-parter. How did we come up with the idea for Jane to have a podcast? And then, how did we decide to include the ads? Well, Book 7 ended the Jane Ladling series, but we knew she had more stories to tell, even though we knew the podcast was going to start before that final book.
But we are now writing the Kings of Fury series, so we didn't want to take away from that to write additional books in Jane's world.
Only so many hours in the day.
Exactly. So we sort of brainstormed what extracurricular things Jane would be doing, and it became clear. She'd be recording her own true crime podcast.
And since ads are in podcasts, we knew Jane would have those in her podcast too.
And logistically, ads allow us to change the time and place within the podcast without it being jarring. They're like a scene break in a book.
The original idea was that there would be ads for places within Arulian Hills.
And you can kind of see that in the travel agency ads for Hakeldama, the fantastical realm in Gena's The Great and Terrible, a place where no one would like to go, like ever. But then we were looking at the dates and realized Gena's Kingdom of Tomorrow would be releasing during the run of season 1 of the podcast. And that's when we decided to make real fake ads for our books.
And then we thought, why stop there? Let's add a game show element. And that's how Fix Him or Nix Him and Are You Tome Society material came to be. Narrated by Jill's husband. Did he miss his true calling, Jill, by not being a game show host?
Welcome to the only game show where you choose whether to fix the book boyfriend or nix him. It's time to play Fix Him or Nix Him.
In true game show fashion, I'll pass on that question and go to our next. When does this take place in relation to the books? Originally, we thought this would be after the final book, but then people might want to have more information on what happens to Jane after the series ends, and we wanted to leave that open in case we go back and revisit Jane's world in book form. So we set the podcast in the middle of the book series.
Next question. Why aren't we allowed to mention a certain handsome special agent with his own pair of handcuffs? Well, some listeners of the podcast are new to the Jane Ladling Mystery series, and we didn't want to give away too many spoilers about their relationship. So next question. How did we decide which cemetery legends or folklore to include? Well, when we first wrote the podcast, we did the mystery element first, then added the Jane-specific details. But there was still something missing.
That's when we realized it didn't sound podcasty enough. Jane loves all the traditions that come along with the cemetery and even gives gravesite tours at night. So those tidbits of legend, I think, gives Gravely Curious the podcast vibe Jane would want. I personally love all things folklore and have a stack of books about 3 feet high devoted to it. So once we wrote the episode, I'd go back and try to locate one that fit the story. Some go hand in hand, some hang there by a teeny tiny thread. I think my favorite one is from episode 6 with a legend that comes from Scotland. Gena, do you have a favorite?
The dog from the first episode. That legend also makes an appearance in the books. Here's another question. What's up next for the podcast?
We have 2 more seasons planned, although we've already written the first episode of season 3 because writing things in order is tough.
Please note, Writing things in order is tough for Jill. Order is my preference, please and thank you.
True, but why tackle everything in order when you can write in a mishmash that you then have to sort out later?
Exactly. We hope you enjoyed this first season of Gravely Curious. Stay tuned now to hear a real voice actress give life to Jane in Romancing the Gravestone.
Kelli will also post fun behind the scenes of her recordings on Instagram, so we'll include a link to that in the show notes. Her narration of 12 Graves of Christmas is out now. Take it away, Kelli, with Romancing the Gravestone.
Exhaust, a plethora of colognes and perfumes, stale coffee probably, and the sounds, the damage. Law enforcement would trek all over the place. In other words, the living, the bane of her cat's existence. On second thought, breakfast shouldn't be delayed. You'll be too busy hissing and swiping your murder mittens at everyone. His way of letting visitors know they had no right to breathe his air in his kingdom without his permission. You're nicer when you're fed. Boards groaned as she ascended the porch steps, and hinges creaked when she opened the door. A familiar symphony. She kept the cottage updated as much as possible, but funds were tight. The biggest, most needful repairs had yet to be completed. Or started. One day. In the foyer, she paused when faced with Grandma Lily's furnishings. The orange velvet sofa with a hand-knitted blanket draped over the side. The floral print chairs flanking the unlit hearth, where all that knitting had taken place. The coffee table with hundreds of Jane's accidental nicks. Love spots, according to her grandmother. 3 years had passed since the cancer had taken Grandma Lily. With every fiber of Jane's being, she missed the dear woman who'd raised her. No one had been kinder or more encouraging. Rolex meowed at her feet, ending her reverie. All right, let's make you less inclined to commit another felony. One a day is enough. In the kitchen, she opened a new tube of chicken pâté and squeezed the aromatic blob onto the cat's dish. Rolex dove in. He loved the stuff and refused to approve of anything else. When she'd first found him, he'd been outside, half-starved, sitting atop a jar of pickles she'd tossed out the day before. The jar had fallen to the ground right side up, and he'd perched on the lid, reminding her of a castle gargoyle guarding his territory. Her initial thought? Watch cat. Her second? Rolex. She'd never forgotten her grandpa's obsession with the wristwatch he touted as pure luxury. She washed and dried her hands, then headed to the office at the back of the house. The room was an addition Pops had added just before he died 15 years ago. Because of his arthritic hips, he hadn't enjoyed walking to the main office on the other side of the property, near the cemetery's entrance. Jane preferred this workspace anyway. The spacious room contained an elaborate antique desk, metal filing cabinets filled with records she'd begun logging digitally last year, only 300 more to go, and framed photos of her favorite people, Grandma Lily and Pops, Rolex, of course, Fiona Lawrence, her grandmother's best friend. Truth be told, the 62-year-old was Jane's best friend as well. There was a single image of Jane's mother and father from their high school graduation. Oh yes, and there was also a gilt-framed cross-stitched Henry Cavill that Jane purchased at a garage sale. What? The $20 she'd spent was well worth it, considering they'd been dating in her mind for a year, her longest relationship to date. After locating the file for Plot 39, she phoned the non-emergency number to the sheriff's department to explain the situation. Unsurprisingly, the head law enforcement officer answered the call himself. As a former mining town, Aurelian Hills boasted roughly 10,000 citizens and employed only a sheriff and a couple deputies. There'd never been a need for anyone else. Other than the occasional teen swiping makeup at the drugstore or a tourist skipping out on their bill at the Golden Spoon, the best diner in the world, people tended to behave themselves. The crime rate remained low. Sheriff Raymond Moore muttered something unintelligible under his breath. "Who is this again?" Jane Ladling? The cemetery girl? A nickname she'd received in elementary school. I mean, the cemetery girl, period. A statement, not a question. I know who I am. Are you sure you saw a body and not a blow-up doll or something, Jane? Kids like to play pranks nowadays. Well, there's blood, so he's not a doll, but no, I didn't touch the body to verify my initial observation. Just give me an hour to haul a ladder to the site and— No, forget it. No ladder and no touching. I'll be right out to check things out for myself. He heaved a sigh. This had to happen now, didn't it? He grumbled to himself. I'd hoped my life